What if I told you that for 95% of human history, nobody had a job, and yet they may have had more free time than most of us do today? No alarm clocks, no bosses, no salaries, no weekends, because there was no such thing as a work week to escape from. And yet our ancestors survived, spread across every continent except Antarctica, invented language, created art, raised families, and laid the foundations for civilization itself. So, here's the question that should keep you up tonight. If nobody had a job, what exactly did ancient humans do from sunrise to sunset? Stay with me, because the answer is far stranger than most people imagine. Let's go back nearly 30,000 years. Imagine waking up before dawn. No alarm clock, because changing light and birdsong are enough. Smoke from last night's fire still lingers. Before anyone speaks, everyone already understands one thing. Survival today depends on cooperation, not employment. Here's the first surprise. Hunter-gatherers did not divide life into work and free time. Gathering food, teaching children, repairing tools, telling stories, making clothing, all of it was one continuous way of living. It simply flowed. Anthropologists studying groups like the Hadza of Tanzania and the San of Southern Africa found something unexpected. Adults often spent only 3 to 5 hours a day directly obtaining food. Ride that again. That's less than most office workers spend just sitting in meetings. How is that even possible? Without supermarkets, refrigerators, or GPS? The answer is knowledge. Early humans knew which berries ripened first, where animals migrated, which roots survived droughts, where water remained after weeks of dry weather. This knowledge was accumulated over generations and passed on through stories and observation. A child's every walk through the landscape was a lesson. Knowledge itself was one of humanity's greatest survival tools, but food was only the beginning. Archaeological evidence shows people invested huge amounts of time in activities with no survival purpose at all. Around 40,000 years ago, humans were carving figurines from ivory, painting cave walls, and making music from bird bones, none of which fed anyone. Why would people struggling to survive spend hours painting animals deep inside caves nobody lived in? Because surviving has never been enough for humans. We seek meaning as much as food. Even hunting wasn't just about killing animals. Large hunts required planning, silent communication, and teamwork to drive herds toward natural traps. Success depended on intelligence more than strength. And here's the part that should genuinely surprise you. Successful hunters rarely kept everything for themselves. Meat was distributed through the group, because tomorrow someone else might be the lucky hunter. Generosity wasn't charity. It was insurance. No individual could feed themselves every day, but together the risk dropped for everyone. But here's something that will genuinely change how you picture these people. We imagine hunter-gatherers as isolated bands, rarely leaving their own valley. The evidence says otherwise. Archaeologists have found seashells hundreds of kilometers from the nearest coast, and obsidian tools trace back to volcanic sources far beyond any single group's travel range. That means networks existed, materials, ideas, and people moved between distant communities long before the wheel or the written word. Civilization didn't begin with cities. It began with connection, and perhaps the most valuable activity of all occupied no physical space whatsoever: conversation. Long before writing, stories were humanity's memory. Around evening fires, people passed on knowledge that could save lives generations later. Modern neuroscience recognizes storytelling as one of the most powerful ways humans organize information and bond socially. Our ancestors weren't wasting time talking. They were building civilization one conversation at a time. Without electric lighting, fire extended the human day, creating extra waking hours for language and culture to flourish after dark. Some anthropologists argue firelight conversation even helped accelerate the evolution of language itself. Now here comes the moment everything changed. The moment that quietly created the modern world you're sitting in right now. Roughly 12,000 years ago, humans began farming. At first, it looked like a breakthrough. More reliable food, larger populations. But it quietly rewrote the structure of daily life. Fields demanded constant attention. Planting had deadlines. Harvests couldn't wait. Land became property. Suddenly, Schedules were tied to seasons and repetitive labor. Here's the twist almost nobody expects. Many archaeologists believe early farmers often worked longer hours than the hunter-gatherers before them. Skeletons from early farming communities even show increased physical strain and new diseases tied to settled life. Let that sink in. The upgrade may have made daily life harder, not easier. Civilization brought cities, writing, science, engineering, empires. But it also introduced something we now take for granted: a new relationship with time. For perhaps the first time, daily life could feel like work. Thousands of years later came factories, clocks, wages, offices, careers. Today, people organize their identity around one question: what do you do? For almost all of human history, that question would have made no sense. You weren't defined by a profession. You were defined by your relationships, your skills, your knowledge, your place in a community. Maybe that's why this story feels familiar, like something you already knew, somewhere deep down. Because even now, our happiest moments rarely happen while chasing productivity. They happen around shared meals, walks outdoors, music, or creating something with our hands. Ancient humans weren't waiting for civilization to arrive. They were already living fully human lives, raising children, solving problems, exploring, creating beauty, adapting to a changing world. Jobs would eventually reshape human history, but they didn't create humanity itself. Somewhere beneath our calendars and job titles, echoes of that older rhythm still remain. So the next time your alarm goes off tomorrow, ask yourself how much of your day actually feels like living and how much of it just feels like work.